My brother ruined my life, got my wife pregnant, and now he wants my help after our parents disinherited him and left me their $2 million fortune. My younger brother, Lucas, always had a deep resentment toward me. If you think it was out of jealousy, you'd be wrong. Actually, he was the favorite son, not me. My parents adored him, spoiled him, and gave him everything he wanted without asking for anything in return. Meanwhile, I had to earn everything through effort. Ever since we were kids, my mother treated him like a prince. She cooked his favorite meals, did his laundry, and even asked me to help him with his homework. I had to do it simply because I was the older brother and had to look after him. But when I needed help, no one was there for me. I guess it was my fault too. Since I was a child, I was independent and didn't expect much from anyone. I accepted my role as the forgotten son, the one nobody defended. While I spent my afternoons reading and studying in my room, Lucas was loud and rebellious, just like my father. My mother never understood my personality. I was always direct and honest, straightforward. She interpreted that as coldness, so she always had a negative perception of me. Over the years, her favoritism toward Lucas only grew stronger, but it didn't bother me too much, until he started making my life impossible. Lucas wasn't just the spoiled kid in the family. He was also a bully. When we started school, he began teasing me about my appearance. He called me an ugly nerd, laughed at my glasses, and made fun of how skinny I was. He would take things from my room, secretly read my journal, and then tell my mother what I had written, just to get me in trouble. There was one day in particular I'll never forget. He almost broke my glasses on purpose. He knocked them off my face and threw them on the floor. I had to grope around to find them while he laughed. Another time he put stones in my cereal. I noticed right before biting down on them, but if I hadn't, I would have broken a tooth. When I told my mother, she just laughed and said it was a sibling prank. It was always the same. Whenever I tried to stand up for myself, my parents brushed it off. "It's just kids' stuff," they'd say. "Brothers fight. It's not that serious." But it was serious to me. Lucas didn't just make my life miserable at home. He did it at school, too. I had problems with some bullies in my class, and instead of helping me, he joined them. He laughed when they insulted me and encouraged them to hit me. One day, in the middle of a stupid fight I can't even remember how it started, he told me to take my own life. That comment destroyed me. I was going through a tough time with my mental health, and hearing my own brother say something like that. I couldn't believe it. But the final straw was what happened in high school. Lucas tried to set my hair on fire. Yes, with a lighter. I got so scared I screamed, and my father came running in. For the first time in his life, he didn't defend Lucas. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he yelled, grabbing him by the arm. My mother tried to intervene, saying Lucas was just playing, but my father shut her down. He said if he ever did something like that again, he would call the police. That was the first time I saw Lucas scared. My father took me to my room and told me he knew I'd put up with too much. He apologized for not protecting me sooner. That was the first time in my life I felt someone actually saw me. The next day, he went to talk to the principal at my school and made sure the bullies who bothered me were punished. Then, he signed me up for martial arts classes. "You need to learn how to defend yourself," he told me. "I don't want you to ever be anyone's victim again." At first, I thought the idea was ridiculous. Me, a skinny kid with glasses, joining a fighting class with tough, strong guys. But I tried it, and it changed my life. I became stronger, more confident in myself. One day, Lucas tried to steal my money. I'd been saving up from the money my dad gave me for doing chores around the house. Lucas went into my room, took it, and ran off to spend it with his friends. But this time, I didn't let it slide. I caught up to him right before he left on his bike. I told him to give me back the money. He laughed in my face, and then I punched him. For the first time in my life, I saw him scared. He fell to the ground, grabbed his nose, and started yelling. My mother came running out, and as soon as she saw what happened, instead of asking why, she blamed me. "How dare you do this to your brother?" she screamed. Lucas, on the ground, was smiling. He knew I would be the one punished. But this time, my father intervened. He made both of us sit down and asked for explanations. When I told him Lucas had stolen my money, Lucas tried to justify it by saying he needed it to go out with a girl. "You should help me. We're brothers," he said shamelessly. But my father shut him up immediately. "If you had done this to someone else, you'd be in jail," he told him sternly. "You're a thief, Lucas, and a bully." For the first time in his life, Lucas didn't have Mom's protection. That day, something changed. Lucas stopped physically messing with me, but the hatred he had for me didn't disappear. It just went silent. This is where the first part of the rewritten script ends. In the next part, I'll talk about how my life changed when I started college, how I met my wife, and how my brother destroyed my marriage. Let me know if you want me to continue, or if you want any adjustments to the story before moving on. After that incident, Lucas stopped physically harassing me, but he never stopped hating me. During our last years of high school, he barely spoke to me. If he needed to tell me something, he did it through my mother. If I asked him something directly, he simply ignored me or muttered insults as he passed by. Over time, I got used to it. His hatred became just another routine in my home, and every day that went by, I counted the hours until I could leave there. My academic efforts paid off, and I got a full scholarship to the university of my dreams. My father was proud and even organized a small party to celebrate. My mother seemed happy too. But Lucas didn't even congratulate me. On the day I packed my bags to leave, he didn't even come downstairs to say goodbye. I left with mixed feelings. I was excited to start my new life, but I also felt relief. For the first time in years, I was going to live without Lucas's constant hatred, and I couldn't wait to see what that felt like. College was liberation. Without Lucas breathing down my neck, I could make friends, enjoy my classes, and start over. But the best part was meeting Elena. We met at a college party through a mutual friend. From the first moment, there was chemistry between us. We spent the entire night talking and laughing, and the next day, we became inseparable. What I loved most about Elena was that she made me feel seen, understood. Unlike what I'd experienced at home, she valued me and treated me with affection. Her family was religious and very conservative. For them, having children out of wedlock was unthinkable. So, when in our senior year we found out she was pregnant, we made a big decision. We would get married after graduation. It wasn't a lavish wedding, but it was beautiful and filled with happiness. For the first time, I felt like I truly had something of my own. I thought I was married to the love of my life. How wrong I was. My marriage to Elena seemed perfect. I always believed that since I was faithful and devoted, she would never betray me. But I was blind. Years later, I found out she had cheated on me not once, but twice. The first time was with a married coworker. It was an on and off affair that lasted for years. When I found out, it destroyed me. We separated for a while, but in the end, I decided to forgive her. The second time was with her ex-boyfriend. During a trip to visit her family, she ran into him and spent the night with him. That hurt me more than the first time. But again, I forgave her. I believed our child deserved a united family, and for 4 years, I thought we'd moved past it. until I found out the truth. 3 months ago, Elena confessed her worst betrayal. She told me she'd been having an affair for years and that there was something else. Our son might not be mine. I felt my world crumble around me. And then she told me. The real father of our son was Lucas, my brother, my blood, the man who had hated me the most in life. Elena had met him when I took her home one vacation. Back then I thought Lucas was being unusually nice to her. I didn't mind. I was glad he at least didn't treat her with the same disdain he showed me. But while I believed he was finally showing a more mature side, he was sneaking around with my wife. Elena explained that at that time, Lucas was going through a breakup and had turned to her for comfort. What started as a friendship became something more. One day, they crossed the line. After sleeping together, Elena felt guilty and distanced herself from him. That coincided with her sudden desire to go home before New Year's. I didn't understand why at the time, but now everything made sense. Weeks later, we found out she was pregnant. And with no way to know who the real father was, she chose to stay with me. Not because she loved me, but because I was the more stable, reliable brother. The whole time I was raising that child as my own, Lucas and Elena kept seeing each other secretly. They met in hotels, lied about work trips. I realized half of Elena's business trips were excuses to sleep with him. My own wife with my own brother. When she confessed it to me, I didn't scream or cry. I just got up and started packing my suitcase. Elena panicked. "You can't just leave," she said through tears. But I'd already made up my mind. I couldn't stay with her. "If you loved me, you'd fight for me," she said. But I didn't want to fight anymore. I wanted to leave. When she saw I wasn't going to stay, she tried a different tactic. "Our son needs a father," she told me. I reminded her that maybe he wasn't even my son. That made her cry harder. When I finished packing, I looked at her one last time. "I hope Lucas is worth it," I told her. And I left. I went straight to my parents' house. I needed to tell them the truth before Lucas tried to manipulate them. When I got there, they were in the living room watching TV. My mother stood up smiling when she saw me, but her expression changed as soon as she noticed my face. I sat across from them and spilled everything. I told them how Elena and Lucas had been seeing each other behind my back for years, how they'd betrayed me from the start, and how my son wasn't even mine. My mother put a hand over her chest, shaking her head, repeating over and over that it couldn't be true. My father, on the other hand, stayed silent. All he did was clench his fists on his knees. I knew him well. When he stayed quiet like that, it was because he was holding back his fury. I waited for them to say something, but my mother spoke first. "There must be a mistake," she said in a trembling voice. "Lucas would never do that to you." I laughed bitterly. Of course he would. He'd been doing it all his life. She just never wanted to see it. To prove the truth, I asked them to remain silent while I called Lucas. I put it on speakerphone and dialed his number. It rang several times before he answered. "What do you want?" he said irritably. My father and mother listened in total silence. "I want to know how long you planned on sleeping with my wife," I said bluntly. There was an awkward silence on the other end. "That's not true," he finally said, but his voice sounded unsure. "Elena already told me everything," I replied. "Everything, Lucas. So tell me, how does it feel to raise a child you thought was yours only to find out he's not?" Another silence, then a mocking laugh. "Well, brother, it's not my fault if women prefer me over you." My mother stifled a gasp. My father stood up slowly as if trying to process what he'd just heard. Lucas kept talking. "If Elena chose me, it's because I'm better than you in every way. I always have been." That's when my father took the phone from my hand and spoke for the first time. "Lucas," he said coldly, "you're a disgrace." I'd never heard my father speak to him like that, not even when he was a kid getting into trouble. Lucas stammered. "Dad, it's not what you think. She seduced me. I didn't want to do it, but—" "Enough," my father thundered. "You're a man, Lucas. A man takes responsibility for his actions. You've destroyed your brother, this family. You have no excuses." My mother cried silently. My father went on. "From this day on, I don't want to see you again. You're not my son. You're dead to me." I didn't expect him to be so drastic, but I also wasn't about to defend Lucas. He had taken everything from me. Lucas begged, tried to justify himself, but my father wouldn't listen. He hung up the phone and looked at me. "You were always the right son. I don't know how I didn't see it sooner." My father's words were a small consolation, but not enough to erase the pain of the betrayal. In the days that followed, my mother tried to convince my father to reconsider. "He's our son," she said. "We can't just abandon him." But my father remained firm. "We're not abandoning him. He abandoned us when he betrayed his brother." My mother didn't insist after that. Weeks later, my father called me to say he was changing his will. He didn't want Lucas to get anything. He told me that after doing the math, everything he'd saved over his lifetime amounted to about $2 million, including the family home. "I want it all to go to you," he said. I tried to tell him he didn't have to do that as long as Lucas got nothing, it was enough for me. But my father wouldn't budge. "You're my only son now," he told me solemnly. "Lucas stopped being part of this family the moment he decided to betray you." When Lucas found out, he completely lost it. He called my mother, begging her to intercede for him. She couldn't resist and called me. "Lucas is sorry," she told me. "He says he wants to make amends." I laughed bitterly. Does he want to make amends, or does he just want the money? My mother sighed. She knew the answer. Lucas tried to contact me directly. He texted me, called me several times. Finally, I picked up. "What do you want?" I asked. "I need help," he said in a defeated voice. "I don't have any money. I don't have a steady job. Elena is asking for child support and I can barely cover my own expenses. I need you to talk to Dad." I stayed silent for a few seconds before answering. "Lucas, you dug your own grave. You don't have my help. You don't have my forgiveness. I don't want to hear from you again." He tried insisting, but I hung up. I haven't heard from him since. Over time, the wounds started to heal, but I couldn't help feeling betrayed every time I thought about Elena and Lucas. Eventually, the divorce happened. Elena tried to ask for financial compensation, but the infidelity worked completely in my favor. The judge not only denied her request for alimony, but also ordered her to pay part of the legal costs. As for the child, I took a DNA test. The result confirmed what I already knew. He wasn't mine. That was what hurt the most. I'd spent years believing he was my son, raising him, loving him. But I could no longer look at him without thinking of the betrayal. Elena begged me to keep seeing him, insisting he wasn't to blame. But I couldn't. I couldn't look at him without remembering all the pain they had caused me. I decided to cut off all contact. Some people judged me for that. They called me cruel, said the child wasn't at fault, but I just wanted to move on with my life. Months went by, and word about Lucas became scarcer. I heard from some relatives that he had to drop out of college because he could no longer afford it. He didn't have many options and ended up working as a mechanic at a shop. From what I was told, he's still living with Elena and they're raising the child together. It's ironic. He wanted my life. Now he has it. And for the first time in my life, I have peace. As for my parents, my relationship with my father's better than ever. Now we see each other often, play golf on the weekends, and talk like we never did before. My mother misses Lucas, but she's learned not to bring it up. She knows my father won't tolerate her trying to bring him back into our lives. I go on with my life. I got a promotion at work, and now I earn more than I ever imagined I would at my age. I haven't dated anyone yet. I'm still healing. But what's important is that for the first time in my life, I'm free. In the following months, I got used to my new life. It was strange waking up and not hearing Elena's voice in the house, not seeing who I once believed was my son running around the living room or asking me for help with his homework. All that disappeared overnight, and although I knew it was for the best, I couldn't help feeling an emptiness in my chest. It took me some time to adapt to the solitude, but each day that passed, the weight in my chest got lighter. Therapy helped a lot. At first I only went because my father insisted. He said carrying all that resentment and pain wasn't healthy, and that I needed to find a way to process it. It took a few sessions, but eventually I managed to open up and talk about everything. My childhood, Lucas, my marriage, and how I felt like a complete idiot for not seeing what was happening right in front of me. My therapist helped me understand that it wasn't my fault, that I had been betrayed by two people who should have cared for and respected me, that I wasn't stupid for trusting. They were cruel for taking advantage of my trust. Over time, I stopped seeing Elena as the woman I once loved and started seeing her for what she really was, someone incapable of truly loving. I wasn't surprised to hear, through a mutual acquaintance, that her relationship with Lucas was going badly. Apparently, arguments over money had become frequent between them, and although they lived together now, the magic of their relationship was gone. I didn't care. I felt no pity for either of them. The only thing that mattered to me was moving on with my life. On the other hand, my father was still firm in his decision not to speak to Lucas again. He said that when he died, he didn't want a single cent of his money to go to his traitor son. That's why, besides disinheriting him, he took the precaution of leaving him exactly $1 in his will. When my mother found out, her reaction was exactly what I expected. "Luis, you can't do this," she told him one night as we were having dinner at their house. "He's still our son." My father set his silverware down and looked at her intently. Number he isn't anymore. My mother pressed her lips together, and for the first time in a long time, I saw her truly defeated. Her motherly love kept her from accepting what Lucas had done, though deep down she knew there was no way to justify it. Still, I knew she wouldn't give up so easily. I confirmed it when, a few weeks later, I got an unexpected call from Lucas. I saw his name on the screen, and my first instinct was to ignore it. But something inside me made me answer. "What do you want, Lucas?" His voice sounded different this time. It wasn't the same mocking, confident tone I remembered. "I need your help." I closed my eyes and sighed. "Why do you think I'd help you?" "Because we're brothers," he replied immediately. I laughed, but with no humor in my voice. That word stopped meaning anything between us a long time ago. Lucas was silent for a moment before speaking again. "I'm in trouble. I lost college. I don't have enough money to support Elena and the kid, and Dad won't answer me." "What did you expect?" I said bluntly. "That he'd welcome you with open arms after what you did?" Lucas started getting agitated. "Elena's to blame too. It wasn't just me." "I know. That's why I divorced her. Now she's your problem, not mine. But I can't handle this alone." For the first time, I heard him sound genuinely desperate. "Lucas, this is what you chose. You thought you could take what was mine without consequences. Now, you're living with them." I never thought things would end up like this. Well, maybe you should have thought about it beforehand. Lucas started crying. It was a strange sound, one I'd never heard before. My brother, the spoiled child who'd always gotten everything he wanted, was now ruined. For a second, I felt sorry for him, but only for a second. "Lucas," I said firmly, "don't call me again." I hung up before he could respond. After that call, my mother tried once more to intervene. She called me and said Lucas was sorry, that he had learned his lesson, and that I should give him a second chance. "I'm sorry, Mom," I said coldly. "That's not going to happen." She sobbed on the other end. "Please, son. He's your brother. He was my brother. Now he's just a stranger." That was the last time we talked about him. 5 months later, the news about Lucas became even rarer. A cousin told me he was working in a mechanic's shop and that, apparently, his relationship with Elena was a disaster. It didn't surprise me. As for me, I was at the best point in my life. I'd been promoted at work, which meant my salary had gone up significantly. I finally had financial stability and the freedom to do whatever I wanted with my time. I devoted myself to improving my physical health, traveling, and enjoying life for the first time without the weight of my past on my shoulders. Although I hadn't fallen in love again, I knew I would someday find someone truly worthwhile, someone who wouldn't betray me, and most importantly, someone who would never, under any circumstances, make me feel like less. One day, as I sipped coffee on a terrace, I looked toward the horizon and took a deep breath. At last, after so many years of suffering, I understood that I was exactly where I'd always wanted to be. Finally, I was free,